Some monuments are remembered for what they celebrate. This one is remembered for what it created. A single tomb built for a ruler, designed to be unforgettable, became so famous that its name turned into a category. Even today, when we say mausoleum, we are echoing one man's legacy. Not because he conquered the world, because his death was engineered into art. On the coast of what is now southwestern Turkey, in the city once known as Halicarnassus, a structure rose that was neither purely Greek nor purely Eastern. It combined cultures, styles, and ambitions into one tall, luminous statement. A building meant to do the impossible, to make a mortal permanent. This was the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And in our journey through the wonders, this is where we end. Not with a god, not with a lighthouse, but with a human being turned into architecture. Halicarnassus sat near the Aegean world, but it also belonged to something larger, an empire that stretched across peoples and cultures. This region, Caria, was a crossroads of influence. Greek language and art were present, but so were local traditions and imperial authority. And then there was the man at the center of it all, Mausolus. He ruled Caria as a satrap, an imperial governor with significant power. He was a political figure, a strategist, and a builder. But the wonder that carries his name was not built by him. It was built after his death, commissioned by a woman whose role became inseparable from the monument itself, Artemisia. Often described as his wife and also his sister, following dynastic practices of that era, she ordered a tomb that would not simply bury him. It would broadcast him, because some rulers do not want graves. They want monuments that keep speaking long after they are gone. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus was famous for its hybrid design, an architectural fusion that felt like a new language. Later descriptions often present it as a structure built in layers. A substantial base, a colonnaded middle section columns creating rhythm and elegance, a stepped roof, often described as pyramid-like in form, and a crowning sculpture group at the top, turning the entire building into a vertical narrative. This was not only a tomb, it was a composition, architecture, and sculpture working as one. And that is why it mattered so much. Because it was not the largest wonder. It was one of the most refined. It turned death into aesthetics. The ancient world did not treat this like a normal royal burial. It treated it like a major artistic project, something worth writing about. Tradition credits the mausoleum with involvement from leading sculptors of the Greek world. Different names appear across classical sources, and the exact division of labor is difficult to confirm with complete certainty today. But the point remains strong. This was an elite commission, a project that attracted top talent because it offered what artists crave: visibility, prestige, and a chance to create something that would outlive them. And the building's surfaces reportedly carried extensive sculptural decoration reliefs, figures, dynamic scenes, turning the mausoleum into a story carved into stone. So even if you never cared about Mausolus as a ruler, the building forced you to care. It was too beautiful to ignore. Here is the uncomfortable question: why invest so much into a tomb? Because the mausoleum was not only about grief, it was about legitimacy. In many ancient cultures, monumental burial was political language. It told the living, this family rules. This power is stable. This dynasty is not temporary. Artemisia's commission can be read as devotion, yes, but also as strategy. A ruler dies, and the world tests the vacuum. A monument like this is a way of saying, there is no vacuum. The state continues. Authority continues. And even if you hate the ruler, you still have to walk past his monument. That is power after death. Later, writers give dimensions and heights, but ancient measurements vary across sources and translations. So rather than chasing an exact number, Focus on what the descriptions agree on. The mausoleum was tall enough to dominate its cityscape, elegant enough to be compared with temples, and decorated enough to be discussed like a gallery. It wasn't only a tomb in the ground, it was a tower of memory, and it stood long enough to influence builders for centuries. That is why the word mausoleum survived even after the building did not, because its concept outlived its stone. Unlike the Great Pyramid, which still stands, most wonders faced one of two destinies: violent destruction or slow dismantling. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus appears to have suffered damage over time, including earthquakes, and gradually fell into ruin. Once a monument is damaged, the next chapter is predictable. Its materials become resources. Stone gets reused, decorations get taken, fragments travel, and eventually, the wonder becomes a quarry with a reputation. This is not unique to Halicarnassus. It is a pattern across history. New powers build with old stones. Cities recycle their past. It is practical. It is brutal. And it is why the ancient world is often known through fragments rather than intact masterpieces. Today, the mausoleum is not standing as a complete wonder. What remains are archaeological traces, scattered pieces, and the long shadow of its influence. But that influence is enormous, because it answered a question that every civilization eventually asks: how do we make memory permanent? The mausoleum's answer was architecture fused with sculpture, beauty weaponized against forgetting. And it worked. Not in stone. In language. The building became a word, a category, a template copied across centuries. In that sense, the mausoleum achieved something rarer than survival. It achieved translation into culture. And once something becomes culture, it doesn't need to stand to remain real. So, this is where our first epic journey ends. We began with the certainty of the Great Pyramid. We walked through a wonder that might be lost to history, the Hanging Gardens. We watched marble beauty burn at Ephesus. We stood before a god made of gold at Olympia. We measured the pride of Rhodes in bronze. We followed the light of Alexandria across the sea. And we end here at Halicarnassus, where death was transformed into art so powerful it gave the world a new word. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of the 7 wonders feels the most unbelievable, and why? Write your answer in the comments. I read them, and I will highlight the strongest ideas. And for brand new adventures, do not forget to subscribe. We will meet again in the next legendary topic. Until then, stay curious.